If the World Ultimate Championships happen today, here are the fastest sprinters from the 100 to the 400 since September 2025, and which ones wouldn't make the championship. That's 20 of the 48 world's fastest sprinters that wouldn't make it. Here are the fastest distance runners in the world in the same time period, and which ones wouldn't make the championships. That's 17 out of 40 of the world's fastest distance runners that wouldn't qualify. And the reason why these athletes wouldn't make the World Ultimate Championships is because World Athletics is using an arbitrary qualification system called World Ranking Points to qualify athletes, which, if you're new here, means that fast times that an athlete runs is now secondary to where they've run the meet. The tier of track competition each of these athletes run is more important than their actual performance. And this has turned qualifying for a global championship into a who knows who rather than a pure test of fitness and race strategy. World Athletics has been slowly transferring over all of their qualifications to global events like World Championships and the Olympics to this new ranking system method. And this is the first time they've dipped their toes into the system with the inaugural World Ultimate Championship. But let's not leave out the women too. Here are the fastest female sprinters from the 100 to the 400, and which ones wouldn't make the championships. That's 17 of the 48 world's fastest female sprinters that wouldn't qualify. And here are the fastest distance runners in the world, and which ones wouldn't qualify for the championship. That's 18 of 40 of the world's fastest female distance runners that wouldn't qualify. Now, obviously, these aren't the names that are going to make the World Ultimate Championships this year. It is still only early July, and athletes have a long way to go until September 3rd. Many of these athletes are still in the midst of their World Ultimate Championships bid, as well as the winner of the Diamond League final won't be decided for another couple months, which is an automatic qualifying spot for the championships. Regardless, these tables present a massive problem with the lack of overlap with the world's fastest athletes and the highest ranked athletes using the world ranking system. And in my last couple of videos found here, I've had a lot of comments telling me I'm wrong for one reason or the next, or just asking questions in general about the system. So we're going to go through some of those comments here. Runner Gang 1997 says, "It does suck for a small select subset of athletes, but I actually think the consequences won't be as dramatic as most people think. All you have to do is rewind the video to those tables to see how dramatic these changes actually are. Some of the overlap is only 50 to 60% with the world's fastest athletes to the world's highest ranked athletes. I don't know how much more dramatic you can get without saying that this is a problem. Can you honestly look at athletes like Jamel Sajadi in the 800, who came silver at last year's World Championships, running a 1:41 point, one of the fastest times of all time, and say, yeah, it makes sense that he's not going to run World Ultimate Championships this year if all else stays the same until then? Or what about Brittany Brown, who ran that legendary 200 meter at the NCAA Championships? She's the third fastest this year, yet right now she's not on that list. I don't think anyone can look at this overlap and say, yeah, this is actually better than expected. Bang Tan Angel 7840 says, "You've obviously thought a lot about the topic, but what is your alternative? I only hear World Athletics bad because monopoly, but almost all the global bodies of sports are monopolies. FIFA, FIBA, ICC, UCI, World Aquatics, because it's necessary. You cannot have a World Cup without a central governing body." I really like this comment because he's right. All sports have a governing body, especially with sports that involve massive global events like the Olympics and the FIFA World Cup. But the difference between FIFA and the Olympics is that the Olympics leases the responsibility of its selection process and selection system for track and field athletes to World Athletics. And World Athletics has top-down control of the whole sport of track and field, meaning they also control the track competitions that get you there since the world ranking system has been introduced. FIFA, on the other hand, is more like an actual governing body of the World Cup. First off, FIFA offers $871 million in total prize money to participating soccer teams, something World Athletics and the Olympics do not do. And in order to have the rights to these players competing at the World Cup, FIFA pays an additional fee ranging from $5,000 to $11,000 per day per player to compensate each professional club, as well as cover insurance premiums for players in case they get injured. This just means that if a player gets injured in the World Cup, FIFA is responsible for paying for their rehab. This total sum of compensation is an additional $355 million in 2026. A further difference here is that the professional clubs receive this money, but also pay their athletes a salary. To make FIFA more like World Athletics in the context of the World Athletics 2026 qualifying process, FIFA would have to do this. Imagine if FIFA had a tiered league system from its highest tier GW all the way down to an F tier league, totaling 10 leagues. Imagine the athletes aren't paid by these leagues except in the highest tiers, where their players are paid a few $1,000s for participating and around $10,000 for winning the league. Travel expenses and food are sometimes paid for, but at least a little bit comes out of your pocket every time. If it's a tier lower than an A level, then you're paying for your travel expenses outright. And now imagine that in order to make the FIFA World Cup, you have to participate in the highest tiered league, and that unless you're one of the top 16 players in the world, which you can't prove unless you play with the players in the top tier league, you can't compete in that league without having an arm's length relationship with the league director. Now imagine FIFA made a rule that all of your stats had a negative handicap if you demonstrate them in another league that's not theirs or in one of their lower tiered leagues, and that the stats are so negatively handicapped that you might as well have none at all. As an athlete, you'd be stuck in a rut. Now that imagine in your pursuit of making the FIFA World Cup, you can't get sponsored because all the ways to monetize yourself are contractually monopolized by FIFA itself or your club. And on top of that, you're constantly monitored for PEDs and have to make yourself available for testers for 14 hours a day and let them know where you are 24 hours per day. And you're not paid to do that either. Oh, and here's the kicker. Other sports in which their athletes make tens of millions of dollars per season, they're not under the same anti-doping obligations as you are and get to compete in the Olympics. The NBA is outright not tested, yet their players were allowed to compete in the last Olympics. See my video here where I talk more about that. So yes, most global sports federations are a monopoly in some sort of way, but not as much as World Athletics, and you tell me which governing body you'd rather be under. Ethereal BRB says, kinda boosting trackflation. More athletes will be under pressure overall, hence they will step up their game. Yeah, that's a fallacy. The more runners that step up their game doesn't equal more athletes going to the Olympics or World Championships. Qualifying for these championships is a zero-sum game, meaning every athlete that qualifies comes at the expense of another athlete. With the world ranking system, it's no different. They essentially just take the quota of athletes in the world rankings and limit each country to 2 or 3 spots per event. Athletes stepping up their game sounds nice and gritty, but it's too ambiguous and every athlete can step up their game. Imagine playing a soccer game where your opponents start the game up 2-0 and the game finishes 2-1. Are you really going to say you didn't step up your game enough to win that? Would it be honest for your opponent to say that they stepped up their game to hold on for the win? You can actually say yes or no to either of those, but at the end of the day, we would all say it's unfair, which is the point of my video. In a response referring to my analysis of saying NCAA meets are treated unfairly and underrated tier-wise by World Athletics, WSS33 says, NCAA meets are low category because they're terrible. Times are often suspicious/fake, wind gauges don't work, no reaction sensors on blocks, etc. I don't know where you got that from. They use the same technology everywhere. It's standardized. They use sensors at all the big meets. There are exceptions like when Christopher Morales set the world indoor record for the 400 meter in 2024, but that record was revoked because of the sensors. Morales would then go on to set the Canadian record in the 400 later that year. The NCAA is legit. All of their meets are legit. Literally over 95% of the Olympic medalists for American distance running since the year 2000 have competed in the NCAA before. The times aren't fake or suspicious, they're real. Davis Mavis 2834 says, is this like when the MLB looked the other way during the juice/long ball era? Is this the Olympics pressuring athletes to take PEDs or use secret tech? No, not intentionally. I think unintentionally, yes. The amount of money that WADA and the Athletics Integrity Unit spend on anti-doping is a ridiculous amount. The machines used to test for these drugs are so good. They're amazing. The big problem with the anti-doping system right now, or at least most of the problem, is just so hard to test for drugs in someone's body. And it's actually involving most of the people that are within the system that are corrupt or have another conflict of interest. That's the big problem. It's not the testing itself. But no, I think that World Athletics is just a bit delusional on how they think these world ranking points are going to play out. AFSA8533 says, I get the idea that World Athletics wants to do. They don't want untested athletes without any high-level experience that go all in to get medals at the Olympic Games or World Championships. And then goes on to say, world rankings isn't that bad, but it obviously needs more work to be done, like expand highest tier meets to more countries or host multiple Olympic qualification meets only open for athletes that aren't qualified for the Olympic Games, something like marathon, swimming, boxing, wrestling, etc. I've actually had this thought before too, so I'm glad other people are thinking of it. One of the positives of the world ranking system is it would indeed be harder to dope if you're traveling to all these different countries. countries. The risk in logistics is just way higher, as well as the risk of getting tested is higher. Meaning if you're cheating, you have to be less aggressive on the drug use to time clearance properly, or take a higher amount of risk by hoping you won't get tested in places they will test you. As for the whole concept of needing more higher tier meets, I mean, practically it will never be enough. There will always be that massive advantage for athletes who have competed in these higher tiered meets. There will always be deserving athletes left out. And if you start hosting these Diamond League meets in Kenya and Ethiopia, many of the domestic athletes will just compete there instead of traveling to Europe, which eliminates the point entirely of having the same elite athletes compete against each other. Elliot Klassen says it's especially a bad look as most of the highest ranked meets located within certain rich regions of the world. If you want to qualify for a global championship, but you're from Central African Republic, good luck. One of the best parts of this sport is how natural and accessible it is. You, at the most grassroots level, at least, don't need special equipment or training to be able to participate. Yet here we are making it specifically less accessible for athletes from poorer nations. I can't believe more people, or federations for that matter, haven't brought this up as a concern. Couldn't have said it better myself. Track and field is a sport of numbers. You either ran a time or you didn't. You either jumped or threw that far or you didn't. There is no sport more pure than that. It's what the Olympics is supposed to be about. The best of all nations competing against each other on an even playing field to achieve the best number on the day. And how can someone say these are all the fastest athletes with a straight face using this system, especially if you're from Asia or Africa? Before this system, you could be a hard-working, talented athlete from Kenya, living in a shared bedroom and farming part-time to fund your crazy running dream of making the Olympics. Then one day you could hit Olympic A standard at a bare-bones track meet with only a pacer for competition. Then you could show up to the Kenyan Olympic trials and have the opportunity to make the Olympics by dethroning the likes of Emmanuel Wenyanye or Wilfred Bungay back in the day for a spot on the team. You showed up to the starting line the same as he did. You're racing 2 laps around the track like he is. Top 3 get to go to greatness and represent their national team. Your life growing up might have not been as lucrative, balanced, or as happy as the next man on the starting line. But when the gun goes off, none of it matters. All is fair. The top 3 get to go to the Olympics. But now, this same athlete, who could just be as well from the Central African Republic or Botswana or Myanmar or India and Asia, can no longer have his life change if any of his other countrymen have made it to these higher tiered meets. Once these time standards are eliminated and we fully implement the world ranking system, the Olympic trials is going to be in name only. It's just another B-level meet. The integrity of the Olympics and World Championships is at stake, yet it will be advertised to fans as if it's the same as always. Even better, actually. So what's the solution to the world ranking system? How do we fix it? What's the alternative? Well, there's many. Personally, I like the old system of having an A standard and a B standard that you have to run twice. These standards would be much slower than they are right now, and then have a national trials that actually mean something. It's cutthroat, but everyone has a chance. If you beat some of the best athletes in the world at a meet where everybody knows the stakes, and you have the A standard, I think you should absolutely go to the Olympics. The Olympic Games itself is the same concept. You must show up on the day. If you're the best in the world and you're not on your game, you lose. There's no rematch. That's what makes the stakes so high. That's what makes the whole process magical. Olympic trials actually meant something to all the athletes who qualify, but you can also use other methods. Off 30 seconds of thinking, I can think of a 10 times better version of the world's ranking system. Ready? Keep everything the same, except eliminate the points for placing in a race and the tier categories of these competitions. Then just average the top 5 performances of each athlete, and you're done. It's way better now. You just have the average top 5 times for your event. Simple. Also, a shout out to Kyle Stevens 9593 for suggesting this video idea. There seems to be a lot of engagement on this topic, and I'm happy to make a video on addressing your comments. Anyways, if you like this video, let me know in the comments down below, and if you want the full story of why the world ranking system sucks ass, then watch this video right in the middle screen right here. I'll see you guys there.